Okay, just for the sake of the people and
Yes.
stuff like that,
Yes.
what's your name
Okay.
and how, like, where are you? What do you do?
Things
That
about
kind of-
myself.
Mhm.
Okay. My name is Mack Mendenhall. I'm 23 years old. I am a senior, a fifth year senior at Liberty. And I'm studying music, specifically commercial music, artist development. I have a minor in women's leadership, and I really cannot wait to graduate. Um, I'm looking for an internship right now in Nashville. So we'll see what happens with that when I get.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so I guess we'll start off with the first question.
Okay.
You've been in Lynchburg and Liberty now for 5 years? 4.5
Technically
years?
5 years, 4 years, but like since 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gang.
Forever.
So you've been here for longer than most people are here, but
Yeah.
how would you kind of describe the design of the campus and the design of Lynchburg?
Okay. Well, the campus, I would say it's very modern. It's not what your typical old school college campus would look like, I don't think. There's not a lot of trees. It's very big and open. It might just be because it's such a big campus and the setup of it. There's obviously like kind of a common theme of like this like red, tan, brownish brick that is like on the exterior of all the buildings, but like they have like different shapes, and some have more glass windows than others. So I feel like there's a lot of modern touches to the architecture at Liberty, and like I've definitely seen since 2017 so many new things pop up over the past 5 years. Like it is just so. I actually first came to the campus in 2015 visiting, and since then it's just unrecognizable
No, that's facts.
how much is different. It's just crazy. I can't even remember a time when the Freedom Tower wasn't a thing. Is that what it's called? The Freedom Tower? Yeah. I don't even know the names of them. I can't keep up with all of it. But yeah, I just, it's crazy to see how it's transformed. I hope that there's a day that they are done with construction. They can just let it be. Like, just let it be.
The deal that they signed, I don't think.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. But yeah.
So if you took, that kind of thought process and you broadened it out to Lynchburg as a whole, how do you feel about like the design of Lynchburg?
Lynchburg is, well, I think of it in my mind as like different sections. That's just the best way for me to understand it, because it's really confusing when you first come there and you're just trying to figure out all the different highways and the exits. I think that's the hardest part. But I feel like it's one giant circle, and there's like circles within it and different, just so many ways you can get to like the same places. But I think of, there's the downtown city of Lynchburg area. And then there's the area with Liberty University and Wards Road and all that, and then I think of Forest area, then I think of Timberlake, and then like Lakeside Drive kind of area. If you're not from here, you're not gonna know anything I'm talking about, but I kind of like split it up into sections, but I would say overall it's a pretty small city in comparison to most cities.
Do you think there's like a big like difference in these spheres that you're talking about how they look, or is it all just kind of run together?
I think for the most part they run together. Areas like Timberlake and Forest, they're pretty suburban, just a lot of development, a lot of stores and shops, and then neighborhoods. But then the area around Liberty obviously has more buildings dedicated to campus, so it's a little different, and it's very busy and a lot of traffic because of all the students. And then I like the downtown area of Lynchburg probably the best, because it has more of that urban feel and more of a historic feel, because Lynchburg is kind of an old city. I don't know how old, but it definitely has old buildings downtown, and I think it gives the city more character in those areas, because other than that, it kind of just looks like any normal suburb, except small, if you live there, so it's small.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything unique in the kind of sectionality of Lynchburg? Because I know where I'm from, Omaha, it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
it's a bad history. Of,
Yeah.
like, it's like, kind of pretty racist, but like
Yeah.
the different like you can point to a cardinal direction and know like what like ethnicity of people is going to live
Interesting.
there, and
Yeah.
like each of them have their own kind of distinct like architectural things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I definitely see where I'm from too in Pittsburgh, because there's just so many different neighborhoods and sections of the city within the city that are really diverse, and different ethnicities and groups of people will tend to live together in one area historically. But I don't really know Lynchburg well enough to know if that's the case here. And I don't really know historically what ethnicities and just people groups live in Lynchburg or where they happen to be. But I would say Liberty University itself is really diverse. Like, it's coming from a more all white like high school and township. It was like a more diverse environment for me, maybe compared to other people that they've been in. So, yeah.
No, I think that's something I can definitely agree with. I came from, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So I think in my high school, I went to a private high school, and so
Okay.
it was like very small.
Yeah.
And I think there was me, there was like a mixed girl. There was like two other black kids who left in my
Yeah.
class, and then there were like two Hispanic people, and like that was basically it.
That was it. Yeah,
That's
that
basically
sounds like more than my high school, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was literally everybody was white. I had a friend who was mixed, and then my first boyfriend actually was like the only black guy in the whole school, like freshman year of high school, and yeah, it was just like I don't know. It's just weird looking back that it wasn't more diverse, because I'm just so used to being in more diverse environments since leaving high school and since leaving that area. So, definitely glad to be more out in the real world now. But yeah, it's funny to look back on how sheltered it was.
For sure. Actually, that idea of sheltering is something that Chris, about this time, I did an episode with Chris, and he talks about he also went to a private high school somewhere in Virginia, like Bloomsburg or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And he talks about how, like, because he was able to be so cut off from people, it kind of like it limited the amount of like different trends and stuff he was exposed to. So
Yeah.
like, the only thing he really saw was sneaker culture, and
That's
even
so
at
funny.
the time, he like, didn't fully even like know what that was until he
Right.
got here and stuff. So do you think that you see any of like how do I want to put this? Coming from your area in Pittsburgh to here, do you like what are the main kind of differences that you see? Do you think that like increased diversity also brought an increased diversity in how people, style themselves
Yeah.
or like act, or like what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, let me start with Liberty, because I feel like Liberty culture, like there's a certain like Liberty brand of clothing. I feel like people who go here like know what I'm talking about, and can kind of identify it, kind of that like hipster vibe and thrifting clothes. And I mean, I do it, so I'm not even making fun of it.
Sure.
It's funny how it's so like there's so many people here that are into that kind of style, but outside of Liberty, I would not say that's the case as much on other college campuses. I would say in Pittsburgh, where I'm from, I would say in the township I grew up in, it was very suburban, very bland, very vanilla. People kind of just dressed with the trends of, the stores that were popular and the brands that were popular. I would say that's kind of what people focused on, were brands, but my parents weren't really into that, and weren't really into spending the money on it, so it's not something I ever like paid attention to that much. I would say like I kind of always figure out trends after the fact, and I'm like, oh, that's that. But I would say in the city of Pittsburgh, and like if you go into different areas of Pittsburgh, you see definitely a lot of artsy people, definitely a lot of diversity and more freedom of expression in the way that people dress.
Okay. You mentioned the freedom. Do you think that there is like Would you say that there's like a pressure to dress this kind of hipster, kind of vintage wave that's going on here, or do you think it's just kind of how it's like selection bias, like that's just people who came here?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it started. I don't remember it being here when I first came to Liberty.
No.
But, random fact about me, I was here for my freshman year and then I transferred my sophomore year. So I was gone for a year and then I came back 2019. So I kind of was out of the loop for a little bit. So I feel like when I came back, that's when I remember it being like big hipster culture. But I kind of feel like I had already I had been adapting my own like style at that time. So when I came into Liberty, I wasn't really too focused on what other people were wearing, but I do remember seeing a lot of that. And but you get so used to it, you think that it's everywhere, and you forget that it's not. Once you leave Liberty, it's not at other colleges, and it's not at in every city or every town either. So it was very, very interesting.
Do you think like Liberty and a bunch of the other colleges, I don't know how much you interact with the other colleges here, but Lynchburg has like 5 colleges in one town for some reason.
Yeah, it does.
But
which I feel like I didn't know until like last year how many there actually are here.
It's a lot.
It is.
But like, do you think you see like differences with like how Liberty students dress from other campuses, or even like, more importantly, like, do you think that the amount of people that are at Liberty kind of takes over what is considered like in vogue in Lynchburg, or do you think Lynchburg is like it's completely on separate thing from Liberty?
Yeah, I'd say there's probably a separate Lynchburg community. I definitely have, met people who are just very out of the loop of any type of Liberty culture, or don't have friends that go to Liberty, so of course they're not really going to be that connected to it. I think in general, Liberty is most different in how hard people try when they like every day. Yeah. Like, and I say that not really in a bad way, but just like everybody really likes to dress up. And I think it goes back probably to the history of the school being a private Christian school, and they used to have to wear a uniform. And so there was always kind of that culture of dressing nicely. And I think that, I don't know the specific timeline, but like I think that the uniform and like the dress code has kind of gradually eased up over the years. So it's probably been like certain things phased out, but they're still encouraging everybody to dress nice. And I think it was my freshman year was the first year that they allowed people to wear ripped jeans like to class.
Is that actually facts?
I'm pretty sure, because I found that out. I found that out right before I came, and I was like, thank God, because I don't know if I literally own one pair of jeans that's like not ripped. So it's just little things like that, because the only reason I ever heard from anybody about that was just that we might have guests in class and they want us to look professional. And so, it's just kind of a more professional environment, I guess, in classes.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny.
I guess then, like, acknowledging that they're distinct, how would you, like, I don't know how often you go downtown and stuff. I don't go downtown that often.
Yeah.
But like, in the different, sections of Lynchburg, how would you describe how people dress in the city?
I would say that it's pretty casual. I don't see a lot of dressing up. There's not a lot of places to like really go out. When people go out, to the restaurants that we do have that are fancy, I'm trying not to make Lynchburg sound super boring, because it's actually getting a lot better. But
for sure.
And some of the bars that seem really nice or a little bit more upscale, or trying to be a little bit more upscale, like people will dress up for that, obviously, to go out. There's definitely, with the college kids, like a big culture of that, like, or trying to make Lynchburg more of like a fun, like, nightlife type of city. But during the day, I don't think that there's anything really distinct to how I see people dress, besides just the attire of Liberty students out and about. So
I think a question I've been exploring through this is that, like, so you mentioned that you think a lot of people just dress up here more than usual because, like, the history of Liberty is a private school. We used to have uniforms. Everyone had to do this kind of stuff. Do you think that like limited knowledge of Lynchburg, just to know, like, I think I talked about in the episode with Chris, but Lynchburg was established in like 1760 something.
Yeah,
So
I thought it was really old.
yeah, it's a very old city.
Yeah, that's
But, like,
crazy.
do you think that there's like a kind of I don't know how much you know about the history of Lynchburg. I don't know much. But
I really know very little,
but,
I feel like.
do you think that there's like a we'll say just a cultural connection more than historical, but like a cultural connection
Yeah.
between what you see and how people kind of get dressed? Like, do you think people act very, I don't want to sound mean, but like act bland here, or like act kind of regular? But
Yeah, I feel like it's just not, to be honest, it's not that exciting of a city in terms of like having a lot of things to do. Unless you're a young person, you like, being outdoors and hiking, like, you can hike all day. There's mountains everywhere, but there's not a lot of things to go to. Like I said, they're like improving that. So I think in terms of the culture, I think that sometimes Lynchburg can be like a little bit disconnected just because it's not like a big city that is more of like a hub for new changes in culture, fashion, or just different trends. I would assume that Lynchburg might be a little bit more behind the times when it comes to that. And I think that a lot of the culture that does come into the city probably comes from the Liberty students who come from literally all over the world. And so they're young and they're bringing in a lot of new ideas that people who live in Lynchburg and don't really travel outside of it aren't, going to have access to unless they're, glued to the internet or whatever, or they research it.
for sure. Just so it doesn't sound like we're dogging on Lynchburg.
Literally.
Like, is there any places that you know of downtown or just anywhere? I keep saying downtown because that's the only place I know.
I know.
Anything. But like, is there any places that you have been to that it's just kind of like, oh, only Lynchburg has this place?
That's interesting. I mean, the first thing that came to mind is a taco place that I worked at last semester, El Jefe. It's downtown. Something I learned is that there is one restaurant group that actually owns 24 restaurants in Lynchburg, but they're all different kinds.
Oh, wow.
But the owner, he's really inventive, and he's like trying to. I feel like his kind of thing is putting, creative twists on like older ideas and just trying to like come up with like fresh new ideas. So I thought it was like it was a taco place and like tequila bar or whatever, and I thought it was really nice. It was unique. I don't know of any place like that outside of Lynchburg. It was like, I feel like it was the kind of like, it was very small, but it's the kind of, place that you expect when you are trying to get like authentic food from that city. Downtown, that's a place you could go.
Okay. Well, you talked about Lynchburg, I think. You talked a little bit about your hometown, Pittsburgh. I don't remember if I already asked you how people kind of are there, but I'm going to ask you again just because
Sure.
I forgot. But, how would you, in the same way that, like, we've talked about the, little unique histories that Lynchburg has that may or may not affect how people dress here. People are kind of bland, but how would you describe Pittsburgh, like how people dress and what it's like?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh has a lot more diversity. It's just bigger. It has that to its advantage. But there's different neighborhoods and there's different communities that are kind of based or originated with like a cultural or ethnic group. So for instance, there's a neighborhood called Polish Hill. Mostly Polish people live there. There's a community called Squirrel Hill, and it's like 99% Jewish people. I know there's a big Italian population, big German population, big African American population, big Hispanic population. So there's a lot of different ethnicities and cultures coming together, and I think that's what has like made that's what makes Pittsburgh really unique. But I definitely think that it's like you can definitely separate it and just like distinguish each area from the other based on like the different trends that go on in that area.
So, I mean, I guess it's been a while since, well, I guess we're young, so it hasn't been that long since we were like majorly developing. But do you think, how would you say that the kind of trends and area that you were in have like affected your style? So I guess I'll just ask the big question of like,
Sure.
You can start from the beginning, start from wherever. But I would just love to hear how you started dressing, how you started getting into fashion, and like how you've gotten to the point you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't think that I really cared about fashion much when I was really young. I was really kind of like a tomboy, kind of an athlete, playing soccer and different sports all the time. But I remember in 5th grade having a moment where like I finally started caring about my appearance. I don't know if it was just kind of that like pivotal time in your life in 5th, 6th grade, middle school where you know, you're growing up and you're just starting to care about your appearance more and you're growing. So you're just paying more attention to it. So I feel like I was starting to pay attention to it, paying attention to how other girls looked around me, how they dressed. Everybody back then wore name brands like Aeropostale, Abercrombie, Hollister, like American Eagle, which I still love American Eagle, but
sure.
That one has like lasted, I feel like. But those other brands, it's so funny. Like it was everywhere, and like you had to have the name on the shirt to be legit. Like it's just so funny. So I remember around that time, just really feeling like, okay, so like a way that I can fit in and be liked is like based on how I dress, and I feel like people kind of like bond over how they dress, and that's just what I saw in my school, in middle school and into high school. But in high school, I think I really started to kind of stop caring about what I was seeing like my classmates and fellow students dress like, and kind of just was doing my own thing. Not that my style looked super different at that point, but I think I got rid of a lot of the Hollister and Abercrombie name shirts and just started dressing like a little bit older probably. But yeah, not really letting my high school influence my choices as much. And then I remember in the year 2019, I had a big shift because in my life, I went through a big year of growth. That was the year that I decided to transfer back from Grove City to Liberty. And it was a really pivotal time in my life. I feel like the Lord was doing a lot and just kind of bring me through a lot of different things, healing me from a lot of stuff that had gone on, and at the same time like showing me who I actually am as a person and who he made me to be. And so with that, I became more passionate about expressing myself through the way that I dress, and I kind of felt like I wanted my clothes and my style to reflect who I am and my personality. So that's just something that I feel like I've naturally been drawn to. I like a lot of colors. I like bold colors. I like wearing, colors maybe that don't go together normally, but, mixing and matching different pieces. I like dressing up, but I like dressing really casual too. I love like comfy sweatshirts and crew necks and leggings, but I also like love jeans, like love different types of jeans. Mom jeans like have been my thing, and I've been getting into flare jeans again recently. Yeah, I really love clothes, like, and that might be like a girl thing, but to me it's like a deeper thing because it is like a way of self-expression and like feeling free to like pick what I want to wear, and no matter how crazy or eccentric of an outfit it might be, just having fun with it. And I feel like it's something that helps me feel more free to just let my personality come out and be who I am. So I would say that's how my style has evolved, and since then it's continued to be about the same. And I feel like I'm at the point where I know myself pretty well, to the point where I know what I like to wear, and I like to explore new things, but I kind of like wear the same thing now every day. In general, yeah.
For sure. No, I think we find with a lot of people that we just tend to start wearing the same things.
Yeah.
And like every once in a while, you start branching out. And I
Yeah.
think that's like that's just what we do.
Yeah.
I think you hit on something that I haven't heard anyone to this point actually even mention, that you were going through just a lot of life change, and God was kind of working on some different things with you, and that's when you started to see how you dress as a like really started considering it as a form of self-expression. If I'm putting that correctly, but
Yes.
kind of if you would, not saying like what were you going through and stuff like that, but it's an interesting connection. How would you describe the connection that your faith has had in how you dress, and if that still continues?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Definitely one thing that I could share from that time is when I was at the different school, my sophomore year, I rushed a sorority the first semester. And if if you know anything about Greek life, it can vary depending on the school you're at, but it's a very interesting experience. But the whole first semester I was at this new school, like I just transferred in. I was like getting to know all the girls and going to all their different events. And I remember the sorority that I decided to focus on rushing and getting into. There were like very nice girls, had a like good reputation, were really into their faith, did a lot of like volunteer work. Like that was just kind of like their vibe. Each sorority you could, identify differently. But the second semester, that's when you found out if you were like moving on, and I didn't get in the sorority. And that was really hard because all of a sudden I lost all these friendships that I had spent like the whole first half of the year building. And that was a time I felt like super lonely, and there was other stuff going on too, but that definitely feeling like alienated from that group, and feeling like, now that I wasn't in, like they just kind of all stopped talking to me. And so I just like didn't, it was like, it wasn't even like we could still be friends even though I wasn't in the group, but it was just kind of like I didn't really have a lot of community there at the time. So my faith got a lot stronger because I was definitely leaning on the Lord more and spending a lot more time with him. And during that time, he comforted me in those times of loneliness by just reminding me that he made me uniquely, and that I am different, and everybody's different. But it's so important to embrace the uniqueness about yourself and to love that. And the more that I've done that, the more that I haven't really cared about, dressing in a way that other people might not. Not talking like anything crazy, but just like, just being like flamboyant, wearing like different colors and just like fun outfits. Just being really out there is something that has intimidated me in the past, but I've always wanted to do. And now I feel like through like the experiences I went through and feeling like alone for a while, but like kind of finding like strength there, being on my own, which definitely came from the Lord. And I think it shaped the way that I started to dress from there on out, because I just wasn't really afraid and didn't really care as much about people's opinions, and kind of just did more of what I wanted to do in the way that I dress. So definitely a very positive change in my life.
I think that's very interesting. I think generally speaking, somehow most people get into, like, at least for me, you associate, things like Christianity, Catholicism, stuff like that with uniforms in a traditional sense. Like the Pope wears the same thing all the time.
Right.
Monks wear the same thing all the time. Christian schools have uniforms, like khakis and button-ups and stuff. But for you, why do you think that for you, like, God led you to, I don't want to say lead you as in like directly, but like this experience with God led you to affirming your individuality and bringing that out through how you dress, instead of, this kind of typical thing of ignoring the expression?
Yeah. I think the big thing, like, because I never really had to deal with uniforms in church or in schools. I went to public schools all my life, so we could pretty much dress how we wanted, but the big thing was the dress code, and they would crack down so hard on the dress code, and it was all focused pretty much around the way the girls dressed, and it just felt like I was always like hiding my body or like ashamed of it or like afraid to just like wear like say a crop top with leggings, like which I'm literally wearing today, but like I've gotten to the point in my life where like I know that it's not bad to wear that, and it's like being like that strict and being that like, I don't want to say oppressive because that sounds really harsh, but almost like being that controlling over like what someone is wearing. I just don't think that that's ever good, and it just like kind of developed in me a lot of just like anxiety or like just extra like apprehension about the different things I would choose, how I was going to be perceived, because we were always told like, don't wear this, or, you know, because that sends a bad message, or, you know, and obviously there are certain things that are like very inappropriate in some contexts, but I think for especially like kids growing up whose like bodies are changing and they're growing and they're like, they have a lot of questions, they're confused about a lot of different things, but they're being told like either not talk about it or like completely cover it up, or, you know, it's just like completely like just fully be conservative. Like I think it's that like overall message of like conservative dressing and is right, and that's like the modest moral way.
Yeah.
And like deviation from that is like not as good or not like meeting that standard. And that's how I felt growing up, and like that's not true in every case, like that could be like jumping to conclusions, but I kind of just felt like kind of like held back in a way by those kinds of things. And as I've grown up, and I think it comes with like growing up too, like there are certain things that aren't appropriate for a young 12-year-old girl to wear that maybe a 30-year-old woman could wear. Like things come with age too, so it's like, I think that's why we have to be like sensitive with the messages we send about clothes to young girls and boys, because it's just a sensitive thing and it's a complicated issue with a lot of, you know, different layers to it. So I think a lot of how I felt stemmed from just the effect the dress codes had on me. And now that I'm not really like, I don't have to worry about that as much anymore. Dressing is just, it's something I feel free to do. It's not something that like I have anxiety about. I just like choose what I want to wear, and I like, yeah, I live my life.
That's so. I think us, like, how universal do you think this idea of like self-expression in fashion is? Like, has the experience and journey that you've gone through with it affected, like, if you see someone who looks like they maybe don't care about it or says they don't care about it, like, has that has your journey affected how you like see other people who like might not care as much? But
yeah, I think that well, fashion for me has just been a really positive thing and something I really enjoy doing and have an interest in. So I understand not everybody has an interest in it. But I think that like there might be some people who just don't know how to style themselves or don't know what might look really good on them. And you know, there's other people that are really creatively minded for that kind of thing, and like stylists, and you know, those are careers people have. So there's definitely like that assistance out there. But I think like people should just try to have fun with it, and you know, try new things and enjoy. Like I feel like I wake up every day and like I look forward to the outfit I'm gonna put together that day, because like I'll be like mixing and matching different pieces in my closet. It's not like, you know, I have like a billion clothes, but just kind of coming up with new ideas and like creating new outfits out of the same like pieces that I might have. It's a really fun and like simple thing that I feel like a lot of people can do, and then, you know, maybe they'll look forward more to that part of their day and just wearing the outfit all day long and feeling good wearing it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, been here for a little bit. I think I've, you know, kind of used. Thank you. But,
yeah, no problem.
I say that. Giving a lot of good stuff. I think it's there's a lot of helpful stuff.
Yeah, of
actually.
course.
But I guess I'll open the floor to you.
Okay.
And just say, like, if you have any departing thoughts on design, life, fashion, anything, you have anything you want to plug, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I feel like you can really learn a lot about yourself through getting into fashion, exploring it more. So I encourage you to do it if you haven't. If it's never really been your thing, you might really have fun with it. Yeah, that's all I really have to say.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
I'ma state my case even if it's preliminary. I gotta shake the way we can't survive on commissary. Jenny Craig, cause my thoughts are heavy. Got Planet Fitness as a witness, cause we working daily. I gotta tell Sally, hold on, I'm still working, baby. I know it's God's grace to bless you with that kind of lady. I know it's God's grace to bless us with some more babies. I know it's God's grace to bless us with food daily. I know it's God's grace to have my name upon a mortgage. I know it's God's grace to send me to always in a foreign.